What's up everybody, this is Nick at barbend.com, and today we are talking about the best creatine supplements on the market. That's right, it's creatine. It is absolutely everywhere. The reason is it works. It is one of the most thoroughly researched sports supplements out there. Probably the most thoroughly researched, to be honest, unless you're counting protein. Creatine has unbelievably strong links. Like we're talking hundreds and hundreds of studies, very strong links with increased power output and aesthetically bigger muscles as well. But you might not know that there are also some links potentially for mental benefits a little bit later in life and a little bit later in this video. We're gonna get into that a bit later on. We're gonna be talking about, in this video, a wide variety of good creatine products, including the best creatine for beginners, the best for bulking, the best creatine hydrochloride, and more. So absolutely make sure you stick around because you're gonna learn a lot about creatine today. I should make it clear, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice. That's always important to remember when you are reading or watching information about supplements on the internet. For medical advice, you gotta go to your doctor. So if you're thinking about making any changes to your supplement or nutrition or exercise regimen, be sure to talk to a qualified medical professional to make sure that it all squares away with you, your personal history, your medications, and also that kind of stuff that's individual just to you. So, what's the best creatine on the market? It's Swolverine's creatine monohydrate. Why? Because it's creatine monohydrate. You don't need that many bells and whistles with creatine. A lot of people add them in and they can have their use, and we're gonna talk about something a little bit later on. But if we're gonna name the best creatine on the market, we just want someone who's giving you plain, unflavored, good quality, American-made creatine monohydrate. That's Swolverine. Yes, it is made in America in a certified good manufacturing practices facility to boot. Real easy, unflavored, mix it into your drinks, dry scoop it, whatever you wanna do. It's unflavored, so it doesn't really taste like anything. You can do whatever you want. Sprinkle it over your meat as though it's salt. If you like, you won't taste it. Creatine monohydrate, best with a glass of water though. So what is creatine? I mean, it's both pretty complicated and pretty simple, but it's an organic compound, nitrogenous organic compound, sometimes called amino acid, sometimes called an amino acid derivative. All you need to know is that it is plain white powder, right? Creatine is found naturally in foods, most famously red meat, also in smaller amounts in like chicken and poultry and fish as well. And as I mentioned earlier, at this point, countless studies have found it to have an effect on power output, sometimes anywhere from 10 to 22%. That's very high. It'd probably be 22% for everybody, but nonetheless, they're pretty concrete and reliable results for these sorts of studies. So that's the athletic reason you'd want to get it. Increased power output doesn't just mean like a heavier bench, it can mean like better sprinting and so on. In the 1 to 3 rep range in particular is where creatine has been seen to have its most ergogenic effects like that. The other thing I want to mention about the benefits of creatine, it really is power output, it's aesthetic benefits. You could argue it has hydration benefits as well. And also, if you don't eat much meat, there are potentially mental benefits to having creatine. Namely, research has found that among vegetarians and also among older folks who tend to not eat as much meat or as much protein, supplementing creatine can help to improve memory. And the good news is, although creatine is only found in animals in the real world, creatine like this, like in powdered form, it's perfectly vegan, vegetarian friendly. So plenty of good reasons to get creatine into your diet. If you eat plenty of meat, probably those mental benefits aren't gonna be a big deal, but it's worth noting that creatine does play an important role in energy production, not just in your muscles, but also in your brain. So, as mentioned before, Swolverine's creatine monohydrate is our favorite creatine product, and we named it the best for a whole lot of categories because it is regular creatine monohydrate with absolutely nothing else. So it's really easy to say that Swolverine's creatine monohydrate is the best overall, this is creatine. It's also the best for men. It's also the best for cutting. That's how creatine works, because in both instances, you're really just gonna want regular creatine monohydrate, right? And you can just get other supplements around that. Again, there's nothing wrong with having creatine products that have extra supplements and extra ingredients on the nutrition profile. But if you just want regular creatine monohydrate, as mentioned before, that is all this is. It is 5,000 milligrams per scoop. That is the normal serving to have. People generally take 5 grams a day, sometimes 3, but typically 5 grams a day. For about 4 weeks, then you get all saturated and you get all these benefits of creatine. It is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and also made in the US in a good manufacturing practices certified facility. So it's really all you could want from a creatine monohydrate. Just to touch on some of the stuff I said earlier, it's a great creatine for muscle growth because creatine is very good at producing muscle growth. Both like in the aesthetic sense, like by bringing more water into the muscles as well, like to make them look bigger for that reason, but also by virtue of the fact that it can improve exercise performance, it can help you get out more reps and help you do more exercise, and in that regard, lead to larger muscles as well. Another really, really solid offering out there if you're looking for the best creatine monohydrate, is Huge Supplements creatine monohydrate, right? They just call it creatine. It is creatine monohydrate, and it's another product that is just straight up creatine monohydrate with nothing else added. No bells, no whistles. So we think it's another really, really fantastic option. We also, another really cool thing about Huge Supplements is they offer creatine pills. And they're very good value as well. So we name them the best creatine pills at that company. They're really, really solid, which is why we're naming it the best creatine for bodybuilders as well. Frankly, I prefer taking creatine capsules myself. It's just really easy to like put it in with your other pills in the morning, so you don't have to think about it. You don't have to go and get some water or anything to wash it down with. You don't need to go and get a shaker cup. You can have them when you're out on the go. You can have them when you're out in the town, when you're at the gym itself. It's a lot easier. You're not spilling it all over yourself. I'm not saying everyone does that. It's not that complicated taking creatine, but creatine capsules, it's very easy. If you take daily pills, your daily like multivitamin, your daily medications, all this sort of stuff, you can just chuck it in there, like in your little pill capsule with everything else. So that's how I like to take creatine myself. And because bodybuilders are generally taking so many supplements throughout the day, having creatine in pill form makes it a little bit easier and easier to integrate into one's supplement regimen and into one's day and one's workouts than having loose powdered creatine all over the place. So yeah, Huge Supplements, very solid creatine pills, very good option for bodybuilders, and a very, very good creatine monohydrate. Now, I know I'm kind of throwing a lot of information at you about creatine and about studies and about benefits and ergogenic performance. So if you would rather ingest this content at your own time, at your own pace, if you want to be able to read what I'm saying instead of watching me say it with this ridiculous accent, you can go to Google, write in Barben best creatine, and the article version of this video will pop right up. So what's the best tasting creatine? Now, creatine is flavorless, right? So you can't really say it tastes good or bad. It's like saying water tastes good or bad. But you can flavor it very easily because it has no taste. This is in stark contrast to other supplements like branched chain amino acids, which when unflavored are very, very bitter and not very easy to get down. Creatine is so flavorless, you can get it down on its own, just plain in water. It also makes it very easy to carry just about any flavor you could want to carry. Transparent Labs has this really interesting product called Creatine HCI that we found to be the best tasting one. Now again, not super hard to find a good tasting creatine product because it's so easy to flavor. It doesn't have any conflicting flavors coming back at you. And Creatine HCI from Transparent Labs, they like took that and ran with it. They just gave a whole lot of flavors. They've got, I think, over 10 different flavors you can get this in. You've got sour grape, you've got strawberry lemonade, you've got peach mango, watermelon, and they're all absolutely delicious. And also get this, naturally flavored and sweetened, which is very unusual in the world of supplements, but also honestly, it stands to reason. It's a sensible thing to do with creatine because it's so easy to flavor creatine. Again, you kind of need artificial sweeteners a lot of the time with BCAAs, not so with creatine. So this is naturally flavored, naturally sweetened, and the flavors there are very many flavors out there for this product, and they all taste really, really good. So in addition to all those delicious flavors, we also named this the best for bulking, and not just because it has creatine monohydrate, it's because it's some interesting additions to Creatine HCI that might give it an edge over other creatine monohydrate products. What we're talking about here is HCI, stands for hydroxymethylbutyrate. It is a metabolite found in leucine, an amino acid closely associated with muscle protein synthesis. I know I'm getting a little bit deep into the weeds here, but there is some limited research to suggest that creatine, when it's combined with HCI, may be anti-catabolic, like so it can help to prevent muscle breakdown and do so better than just leucine on its own, right? Leucine is the main amino acid in branched chain amino acid supplements, which a lot of people take for enhancing the odds of muscle retention when they're working out. Again, I'm getting it a little bit too complicated here, but my point is, HCI combined with creatine appears to prevent muscle breakdown better than creatine or HCI on its own. So the research is pretty limited, but it's pretty interesting stuff. A lot of people are happy to pay the extra to get some HCI with their creatine. On top of that, it has some vitamin D in it as well. Vitamin D has pretty interesting links with testosterone production, with sleep quality, with bone health. All this stuff is of great interest to folks who are bulking, who are on the bulk train. So if you're looking for a creatine that's good for bulking, not only does it have HCI, not only does it have vitamin D, it also has black pepper extract, which may increase absorption. So all this together and all the delicious flavors makes Creatine HCI pretty solid buy. Coming up next, the best creatine for mixing. The thing with creatine is if you ever put a scoop of it into a glass of water, it will fairly quickly go and settle at the bottom. And then, you drink it, then you put in a bit more water to mix it around and get what's left at the bottom. It can be a little annoying if that's something you don't like. micronized creatine is probably the way to go. So that's why we've got the best creatine for mixing being Xwerks Lift. Xwerks, pretty cool company, a lot of interesting supplements, like including some really interesting carbohydrate supplements. So the reason we made Xwerks the best creatine for mixing is because it's micronized. Micronized particles are up to 20 times smaller than the particles of regular creatine monohydrate. They disperse more easily in water, so that's it. That's why that's the best creatine for mixing. Also, interestingly, this bag here, they decided to put it in a bag as opposed to a jar, and then it's to cram in more creatine than you normally find. So if your serving size is 5 grams, there are 80 servings in this bag for like roughly 50 bucks. So it's pretty economical as well. It allows you to get more creatine than you normally can, and it's like about 60, 65 cents per serving. So in this climate, because the price of creatine has increased a bit in the last few years, it's actually pretty good, especially because a lot of Xwerks supplements are surprisingly expensive. They're creatine, very reasonably priced. All right, so what about the best pre-workout with creatine? You actually rarely see pre-workouts with creatine in them, at least not at a decent dose. And the fact is you don't need to take creatine before a workout. As I mentioned, you can take it any time of day and just slowly your muscles will saturate with creatine. So timing isn't really a big factor with it. Nonetheless, if you want a product that can like put your creatine supplement and your pre-workout supplement in together to kill two birds with one stone, we like Pre-Kaged Elite from Kaged. So this has 5 grams of creatine in a scoop, right? And they're actually, interestingly, 2 different kinds of creatine. You've got creatine monohydrate of 3 grams and 2 grams of creatine nitrate. The only real difference is creatine nitrate is a little more water soluble. It's not really worth paying that much extra attention to, but still kind of interesting there are 2 types of creatine there. You're getting 5 grams, but also Pre-Kaged Elite is one of the strongest pre-workouts you're going to find. It's got 388 milligrams of caffeine in one serving with those 5 grams of creatine. For context, an average like 12-ounce cold brew from a coffee shop is about 150, 160 milligrams. So this is more than 2 cups of cold brew coffee at once. In addition to that, it's got all the other mainstays you're gonna get in pre-workouts like citrulline, beta-alanine, beta-ine anhydrous, L-carnitine, L-tartrate, and so on. All of them dosed at well above the minimum effective dose suggested by research. So pre-workouts is obviously a totally different subject with a lot to talk about. I encourage you to check out our content on that. But if you're looking for a good pre-workout that has creatine in it, as long as you're happy to have 388 milligrams of caffeine along with it, I encourage you to check out Pre-Kaged. Then you got the area of post-workout nutrition, which is an interesting one. It doesn't get quite as much attention as the pre-workout supplements. Post-workout, people are generally talking about meals you should be eating, right? But there are products out there that focus on what to deliver your body so that you can recover as quickly and efficiently as you can from your workout, right? So our favorite one for that is Formula 12 from Huge Supplements. The reason why we like this one is it does have 5 grams of creatine monohydrate, right? Which makes it easy. It's also got a range of interesting carbohydrates, including clustered dextrin, which is intended to spike insulin deliberately in order to enhance absorption of like the foods and the other nutrients and ingredients in this supplement, right? So it has a few different types of carbohydrates in there. It also has plenty of ingredients that are often found in pre-workouts. Now, without getting too deep into the weeds here, most ingredients in pre-workouts, like creatine, you don't actually have to have before a workout. You can have it at any time. So there is beta-alanine and beta-ine anhydrous in here. Both of those can improve workout performance, neither of which you have to take right before a workout as long as you've had them at some point and with some regularity. So beta-alanine can help with endurance for your next workout. Beta-ine anhydrous can help with power for your next workout, and so on. And there's also black pepper extract as well in here to help with absorption. So there's a few interesting things going on here. It's kind of like a pre-workout minus the caffeine plus some fast digesting and slow digesting carbohydrates to help speed along recovery. Interesting product, and if you're looking for one with creatine, there's your best post-workout supplement with creatine. Next up, we're going to investigate one of the more unusual forms of creatine called creatine hydrochloride. It's kind of a controversial addition. In fact, there are some 10 different kinds of creatine out there on the market, and there are a lot of companies trying to convince you that this form or that form of creatine is more effective. The jury is still out on most of them. The vast majority of research is on creatine monohydrate as a safe, effective, and useful supplement. However, there are plenty of people who experience digestive distress with regular creatine monohydrate, and creatine hydrochloride, because it's closer to the pH of our stomach, may be easier to digest for those folks. Also, the serving size is smaller for creatine hydrochloride. I guess more of it absorbs or something. So that's a bonus too. While you normally get 5 grams of creatine monohydrate, creatine hydrochloride, you're normally taking 750 milligrams. So you get like a little teaspoon of it. So Kaged creatine hydrochloride is our pick for this one. It's fairly inexpensive. Hydrochloride is more expensive than monohydrate, but this is still about 40 cents per gram, and most hydrochlorides out there are about 60 cents per gram, so it is very reasonably priced. Plus, they have added some flavoring to it, a nice lemon lime kind of flavor, which is tasty. You can get it unflavored if you want, or you can get it in pills. You can get all of these from Kaged, and on top of that, they're all tested by Informed Choice, which is a very important third-party testing site to make sure there are no banned substances or anything like that. So especially if you're a competitive athlete, and if you're someone who wants to try out hydrochloride, this is a pretty good option. So next up is best creatine for beginners. That's one we get asked a lot. To be clear, plain old creatine monohydrate is all you're really going to get in a lot of supplements out there. But what we really like about bulk supplements is they have a very no-frills approach to their supplements. And surprisingly, even though they're called bulk supplements, you can get just like 100 grams at a time. So that's like 20 servings. So that is just enough to get you through the 4 weeks it's supposed to take for your muscles to get fully saturated with creatine. So that's like a really nice amount of creatine to buy at once. And I would definitely recommend you go out to bulk supplements. And then if you decide that you like it, you can order hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of servings at once if that's the way you go. And the more you get, of course, the more money you save. But for a nice, clean 100-gram amount of creatine, go to bulk supplements. It is nothing but creatine monohydrate. It's also free from sugar, soy, dairy, yeast, gluten, and additives. And they run their own factory as well. So that helps to minimize the chance of cross-contamination and that kind of stuff, if that's a big concern to you. Bulk supplements, you can get them in a bunch of different sizes, way more sizes than you can normally get for any other company. And that's why it's best for beginners. You can get as much as you want, and you can get the minimum amount to get the effects. Lastly, we're gonna talk about best creatine for women. Once again, we don't need to gender this stuff. You can just get regular creatine monohydrate. However, we've found that our female readers are often talking about Legion Recharge, which might be giving away too much here. I like to have myself. It's my favorite way to have creatine because it's a really delicious way to get your creatine. I like to come home from the gym and pour a bunch of this into some really, really cold water. And it's really refreshing because it has these really nice flavors. So there are several flavors available from Legion, and Legion doesn't use any artificial flavors or sweeteners. So that can be helpful for women who are trying to avoid artificial flavors or sweeteners. So this one here's a strawberry lemonade flavor. They had a watermelon one that I had for many years, and they're just really nice and refreshing to have after a workout. But what's also cool about this is that in addition to having no artificial flavors and also to being delicious and also having plenty of creatine in them, they've also got a couple of extra goodies in here as well. There's not a lot, the ingredients, but there's got some L-carnitine L-tartrate in this. L-carnitine L-tartrate has some interesting research suggesting it may be helpful as part of a strategy to try and have lean muscle and get rid of as much fat as you can. There's more to it than that, like your diet is like vastly more important. But nonetheless, there's some research suggesting that when other factors are controlled for, L-carnitine L-tartrate could help to potentially boost the lean muscle and fat loss component of a workout plan. So that's pretty nice to throw in there, especially as a post-workout drink. And there's also a bit of a corticosteroic acid, which is meant to help to manage insulin sensitivity. There is pretty interesting research suggesting they might potentially help to give you an edge in your diet and nutrition and workout plan as well. So yeah, like there's pretty interesting research supporting the other ingredients too. So that does it for our list of the best creatine products. Before you go out and buy creatine products, just be mindful of the fact that, well, I mean, one thing to remember is that a lot of people try and convince you that there's some new, different, weird type of creatine that's more beneficial, that's better, that's faster acting, that has more muscle growth. The truth is, creatine monohydrate is the one that has had all the research supporting it, and these other niche, new, weird types of creatine, it's possible that one of them is better, but the research hasn't been done. Like the vast majority of research has been done just on creatine monohydrate. The other ones have usually at best like 1 or 2 studies on them. So just stick to creatine monohydrate, you're gonna be fine, unless creatine is difficult on your stomach, in which case creatine hydrochloride, that's what has the second most studies on it, if you have a more sensitive stomach when it comes to creatine. As far as loading it, you don't, the time of day you take creatine doesn't matter. It's not like a pre-workout in that regard. What most people do is they load it. They take 5 grams per day, and as I mentioned a few times now, after 4 weeks, you're saturated and you have all the benefits you're going to get from creatine. That doesn't mean you stop taking it, but yeah, you just take 5 grams a day. There's no need to load it, like have a whole lot of creatine at once. It used to be the trend to have like 8 tablespoons a day, and then you stop taking creatine after like a week or 2, but just take 5 grams a day, you're gonna be fine. Another thing to note, a lot of people like to cycle off creatine now and then, just to give their body a rest. There's no real evidence that it's bad for you, but nonetheless, there's no reason to not go off creatine now and then, right? So every few months, like basically just when I run out of a couple tubs of creatine. If I buy 2, I run out of them, I'll just take a break for a few weeks just because like why not? And then it's like a nice bonus when you start taking it again and your muscles get big again. But that's cycling off of creatine is a thing that people often ask us about. You can if you want, but it's not really necessary. And the last thing to note with creatine monohydrate is talk to your doctor before you start taking it or before you start any new workout regimen or diet regimen or anything like that because your doctor knows you better than we do and can give you really individualized advice to help you on your journey. The full article version of this video is on Google bar bend best creatine, and I'm out. I'm gonna go work out. Hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.